If you're a little like me, like I was in the past, then you probably find it troublesome to stay alone for a longer time. Maybe you feel lonely, maybe you feel like the life around you is happening and you're not in the middle of it, and it kind of makes you feel sad or overwhelmed. I remember that in the past I used to feel this way. Sometimes I would want to use my Saturdays or Sundays to kind of, do some chores or learn something. I've always enjoyed learning a lot, like learning a new language or other stuff, and it requires that sometimes you just sit at home alone when others are outside doing stuff, right? I also had the problem that at some point I was doing a quite stressful and demanding work. And what happened is I would travel quite often, and you would arrive in a place and you would have a full week and no time to think about the weekend, no time to think about organizing some outdoor activities or social get-togethers. And you would arrive on Friday evening wondering what to do now. And you didn't have anyone to call, spontaneously and say, let's get out. It would really make me feel miserable at times. I hated this because it felt like I wasn't in control of my own well-being. It made me feel like I was dependent on others in order to feel like I had a happy life. And I was also kind of sure that it was also related to some cultural background. So for a long time I struggled with this. And I think now that I know myself a little better and I know that I'm an INFJ, I have kind of discovered that I am the subtype that is an extrovert introvert. This is kind of weird, but it definitely suits me. So the problem that very often you kind of want to have time for yourself and want to have time alone and actually need that time to recharge, but you're kind of extroverted as well, and in some sort of paradoxical way. So the problem with that is that you just, you feel like you're always in a stretch. You decide to make plans where you have it quiet for the weekend so that you can do stuff on your own. And once you're there, you kind of feel like you're missing out on life and something's going really wrong. So where was I? All right. Most of the time I considered this situation quite normal. I was assuming that a lot of people were in the same situation as I was, and that I just kind of had to learn how to, set myself a better schedule and make sure that maybe I see a person at least once a day on a Saturday or a Sunday, and kind of, do my schedule so that I would feel well most of the time. But the thing is, most of the time I learned to deal with this and I felt quite okay with it. But sometimes I, again, was either surprised by a situation where I would end up spending an evening on my own or a day on my own that wasn't foreseen at first, or I, kind of was needing more presence than I likely wanted to admit. So you just kind of tend to feel a little sad and sorry for yourself. And what really annoyed me about that is that if I had made a plan that I would stay in Friday night to learn something, I actually really liked the idea, but once Friday night would arrive, being on my own, I would feel really, really bad. And I realized that this had negative consequences. Like, not only would I be just on my own trying to learn something, but most of the time I would end up not really learning something because I would turn to something to distract me, which most of the time would be a rom-com, a romantic comedy. And this was really wasting my time in my head because, either I go out and I have my social life, or I stay in and I learn something. But staying in and kind of trying to have a substitute for the social life I now miss that I don't have, that's kind of a weird situation, and it's really a loss of time. So I think it lasted for a long time until I was beginning of my 30s. Then I had 1 week of meditation training. Every night for 2-3 hours there were some free meditation classes in town, so I decided to go there and learn something. This experience to me was really eye-opening. Why? Because we learned that we are the masters of how we are feeling. And I kind of knew this was probably possible, but I hadn't experienced it firsthand until then. And there was this day where I was feeling really down. I had some stress, and I was also I was just not in a good place. And I arrived a little bit like a mess at this meditation class. And this meditation class was about peace, I think, peace and joy. And I remember that we did this exercise where we slowly had to imagine a really peaceful place where we had felt peace, calm, and joy, and just, let it sink into our mental image, just envision it, and, craft our own emotion or peaceful emotion coming from that memory. And I was blown away. It worked. Right after this meditation, I felt so calm and centered and happy. And a few days later, when once again this feeling came back, I was alone in my room. I actually wanted to work. And what happened is that this feeling all of a sudden of, oh, I miss a presence, I kind of want some social interaction, it came up. And I was about to turn again to watching a movie. Instead, I remembered this meditation class, and I sat there and I meditated for 15 or 20 minutes. And all of a sudden, I was fine with being on my own. I just had discovered the habit of being happy when being on your own and being your own master, even in these moments where you are kind of in a stretch between social life and being on your own. And instead of wasting 2, 3, 4 hours of my time trying to repair the damage, I used 15 to 20 minutes of meditation and was able to happily do what I had intended to do, which was work on my business. This was a very eye-opening moment, and nowadays I've changed a lot in that perspective. I used to be so much more sociable, but it felt like sometimes I was pushed to being sociable because I just hadn't developed the positive habit of being on my own. I didn't know how to be on my own for too long and still happy. Nowadays, I feel totally different about that. Now, don't get me wrong, I still need human interaction. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel really fine with both my sides. Actually, at the moment, I am rediscovering and deepening my introvert side that I've always had to kind of push on the side because I didn't know how to be on my own. What's your experience? Have you learned how to be on your own? And what about this habit? Do you cultivate it daily? What do you do out of your time on your own? Does it benefit you or does it make you sad? I would be really happy to learn more about that. Leave a comment in order to let me know, and also subscribe if you want to learn more about this journey, other stories, and healthy habits.